RUISF panel discussion. This panel discussion is a wonderful chance for us to hear what our panelists, who have a wide range of experiences and expertise, have to say about this year's theme of creativity and how they believe it is relevant to them and all of us. We are very grateful to all the panelists for agreeing to take part in this discussion, and we thank them in advance for the insight they'll provide.
Mr. Florian Busch, who spoke at the opening ceremony about human creativity, is a German-born architect who is currently based at his own firm in Tokyo. Mr. Busch pursues architecture as a result of interactions between multiple fields that shape the society it is part of. We're happy to have him speak again today. Okay, next, Mr. Eduardo Galvani is a multi-talented creative director and visual designer who studied architecture at the University of Milan and fine arts at Parsons School of Design in New York. He currently has his own studio in Tokyo, Galvani Creative, and has created advertising and commercials for international companies such as Coca-Cola, Sony, Dell, Casio, and NEC.
Mr. John Moore is the chairman of the board at the Seeds of Life Foundation, working on educational green and gardening projects with communities, companies, and schools all over Japan. Mr. Moore spent 12 years at Dentsu Albertson in Japan and relaunching the Patagonia outdoor clothing brand. He currently resides in a 1,000-year-old village in Kochi, Japan, where the foundation preserved heirloom seeds in a seeds bank. Ms. Janice Nam, who spoke eloquently and performed beautifully at the opening ceremony, is currently on her gap year while performing as a singer and songwriter with her band Sun Eskimos in Hong Kong, and we're glad to have her back today.
Reverend Takafumi Zenru Kawakami is the Vice Abbot in International Affairs, coordinator of the Shonkuin Temple in Kyoto. He was born in Kyoto and studied religious study at the Arizona State University, focusing on religious conflict management. He is also a good friend of Ritsumeikan, having hosted our students from Won at his temple on a number of occasions.
Mr. Jeff Chur is a good friend of the ISF, having memorably participated in last year's panel discussion. Mr. Chur was educated at UC Berkeley, Sophia University, and Harvard. Describing himself as a serial entrepreneur, he has made a career in business startups and has lived and worked in Japan for 20 years. He is currently President and CEO of JC Ventures, a venture incubator bringing a number of new startups into fruition.
Finally, we're proud to introduce Ms. Reina Fujimoto, who will moderate today's discussion. Ms. Fujimoto is currently in the second grade at Ritsumeikan High School in their first year of her IB diploma program. She was born in Tokyo and studied in Turkey, Malaysia, and Thailand, before joining Ritsumeikan Uji in 2012. And she will now begin today's panel discussion.
So I'm going to start the panel discussion now. So since most of our audience is our high school students, I'm going to focus on creativity in high school. And I'm sure you all get pressure about what kind of careers you want to have. So we're going to talk about creativity in careers. So starting from Mrs. Bush, could you please briefly introduce yourself and please tell us what role creativity plays in your job?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Florian Busch, and I'm an architect, as I was already introduced. I studied architecture in Germany at the Bauhaus University, and did an exchange year in Japan at Tohoku University as a graduate research student, and then went to the Architecture Association in London to get a master's degree. And then I met Toyo Ito in London. It turned out that he asked me to work with him, and I worked there for 5 years. That's until 2008. And in 2009 I opened my own practice, timely with coinciding with the Lehman shock. So I opened my office and didn't have any work. And that's one part of creativity, that you have to continue without having any work. And I think it can be very, very good. It's like when you diet, you focus on things that are really important. And how does creativity play a role in my work? As you have heard yesterday, of course, I mean, architecture itself is by many considered to be one of the most creative professions. But I also said yesterday that I don't think creativity is limited to that kind of creating something like most people think creating an artwork or something. And creativity is much, much wider than that. And I think we're going to talk about that today.
Thank you. Mr. Galvani.
What's role creativity plays in my career? My company name is Galvani Creative. My title is Creative Director. Creativity pays my bills, warms my home, buys my food, makes me to meet wonderful people. Creativity brought me here to meet you. Sorry?
You 100% live on creativity.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. I never had a career. I don't want a career. And so everything I do nearly always starts from zero. And that takes creativity. You don't need to find a job when you leave university. You can create your own path, your own direction. 2 years ago, there was no seed bank. There's a seed bank in Japan, and it's based in one of the oldest villages in Japan, with some of the oldest DNA seed in Japan, grown in that village. And today, this year, you'll see a lot of creative promotions around dyes, seeds, soybean seeds. Because soybean is such a vital part of Japanese culture and food, and certainly the next 50 years in Japan needs to renew the old soybean. Right now, soybean is about 97% imported from America, Argentina, China, India. There's only 1% of soybean seed in Japan is real Japanese sewing and seam. And this year, most people in Japan will get to touch that information somehow. And that will take a lot of creativity and a lot of energy and a lot of communication. But that's what life's all about. Start from zero, really, every day. Start from zero and see what you can, your day is what you fill it with every day. And it's up to you, it really is up to you. And I think that if you start every day with that attitude, your life changes and your career will change. The way you study and the way you live life will change.
Thank you. Ms. Chance?
I write songs, obviously, that I think requires some creativity. When people ask me how I write my songs, it's incredibly stripped down. I'm in my bedroom. Those two words don't go well together, but I have my guitar and my voice, and I'm just playing with different tunes, and there are countless and infinite number of ways I can go on to write my tunes, but I think creativity also requires choosing where you go down, which path you go down, and that's how creativity works in my profession. But I'm also working as a teacher assistant with kids with learning disabilities, so that requires a lot of creativity as well. It's overwhelmingly, for me, going from a student to a teacher in a matter of months was a lot of perspective. I get to create lesson plans, I get to create activities for kids to understand understand words, like the difference between B and D, the difference between 6 and 9, and no pun intended, guys. And it's fun, and you get to incorporate kinesthetic learning, you get to incorporate auditory learning, and it requires a lot of creativity, I think, to think out of the box so that the kids are engaged and entertained at all times.
So, well, talking about creativity, I'm coming from a really traditional industry in a way. I'm running like a 20 years of temple. So, why this guy here, he's just talking about old stuff, dealing with old stuff. But actually, this industry, well, I don't know if it's the industry, but running temple, Japanese Buddhist temple right now is dying tradition. So, you need to kind of reinvent that. Reinvention is really necessary. I mean, tradition change so many times, itself to fit in new conditions. So being creative, make tradition survive. So in a way, we have to go back to zero, like John said. Tradition day is already there, but you have to go back to zero and then reinvent it again. Again. That's why we can have tradition. So it's really creativity necessary part of my job in a way.
Okay. For a panel discussion on creativity, it's a bit ironic that we're going in order here. And we have the creative people on that end, and I'm a lawyer, so I'm very boring. I'm on this end. So I'm just going to end there because I don't have anything creative to say. Hopefully I can have something witty later on.
No, don't let him do that. Don't let him do that. This guy creates 10 new companies a year. New technologies and new ideas.
Yeah, I'm sure you met like very creative, ambitious people while you were working in your business.
I've met a lot of creative people, and based on Matthew's request, I introduced all of them. So they're on that end.
It's his fault.
All the difficult questions about creativity should be addressed to that end of the table.
Thank you. So, just to try to say that you're not creative at all, but in high school, were you an artsy student or more like academic based?
Okay, I don't think the teachers in this room are going to like this answer. In high school, I wasn't at class much.
Censorship. Can somebody turn this mic down? I think it's a bit too loud. Can somebody turn this
Okay, I'll just continue. So on this end, the creative end, you say that you live 100% on creativity. Were you that way in high school?
Well, then I go in that. I have a kind of unusual education. I am you guys. I didn't go to high school. So I was raised by my grandparents. They are diplomats, and we keep constantly traveling. I have a tutor. I have like homeschooling, and doesn't mean that make it much easier for me. I still have to follow curriculum, make tests, like the Jesus before with a sealed envelope. That is just like I did not have brothers. My family was finishing meal at the time, and I was always in company that are people much older than me. And like art in special, when I was at his age, was a kind of extremely good refuge because it's where I could create my own world. Like I draw compulsive, this kind of therapy. And you can say that sad, but all contrary. I think that what would be a problem for me totally actually make me create my life. From that moment, I knew that what I can do, and I have an objective in life. And the fact that it's so art is so easy to adjust to you, and if you are open enough to adjust around it. And it's fun, and I recommend anyone to try if you didn't yet.
You asked Jeff if he was artsy. I have to say I hate the word artsy. That's the art you can buy in a shopping mall. That's when you want something artsy. Okay? Creative, was I creative in high school? I don't know. I was very creative at, trying to not to do much work. Trying to get good grades without having to do much work. I think I was very creative at that. And to the displeasure of my older sister, I always had to work a lot to get good grades. She hated me for that. No, I think creativity definitely, creativity and artsy are, for me, are polar. Okay?
Yeah, I didn't go to high school either. Actually, I didn't go to primary school. My mother used to put me in one gate, and I used to run out the other gate before and go shopping or something. And the first year, she came to school and said, "So how's our John getting on in class?" And the teacher said, "John? We don't have any Johns." And I was locked in my room for 6 months. So I didn't go to school for another 6 months. The reason I didn't go to high school was I write books, right? And if I didn't writing for me is like breathing. And for 10 years, I refused to read anybody else's book. I didn't watch TV, I didn't listen to radio, and I just wrote every day, 3 hours, at least 3 hours a day. And the next day I'd read it, and usually throw it away. I threw it away for about 3 years because it was always somebody else's thoughts, somebody else's language that was coming out. And then one day, after about three years, suddenly I wrote something and I stopped and I went, ah. From that day, I would sit down with a blank piece of paper and write for 3 hours. And it was a journey, and it was an exciting discovery of a journey, because I never knew what was going to come out. But it certainly wasn't somebody else's thoughts. And learning to turn it on and turn it off, and learning to work within the limitations of a white sheet of paper with 26 letters in an alphabet, so many words. Learning that craft and that skill, like Florian was talking yesterday, creativity happens within limitations, it has to. Otherwise, you just get a blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on and on and on. So you need limitations, but it's working within and learning to work within those limitations so you excel those limitations and go way above and beyond and deeper than those limitations. And when somebody else actually reads or sees what you've produced, it helps them to go there too. Then somewhere in there, I think, is what we're talking about creativity. And learning to do that takes time. Takes time. It takes, it's not a job, because it doesn't make any money usually. But it's like breathing. If you don't do it, you can't live. Like Janice, if she doesn't write songs, she wouldn't be able to live. You can see that. She barely gets by as it is.
I have no idea how that is connected, actually. I didn't go to class much in high school, but I guess when I got to college, I was fresh. I think all of you are studying very hard now, and I remember when I got to college, a lot of my classmates were burned out. And I was very fresh because I hadn't studied at all. Maybe turn the question around a little bit, because I always like to change the tables here. I think everybody here is very creative and very successful in the field that they're in because they're doing something that they like. And probably what Taka said just now about his love for history, and had he been able to focus on that more, it would have been better. You know, as a student, I think a lot of times you're just worried about grades and getting into college. And then once you get to college, then you worry about getting out of college. But I think you're missing an opportunity if that's the case. And I really wouldn't worry so much about grades, and I would worry more about learning, and learning how to use the knowledge you have, and why to use it, and what you can do with that. And I think focusing on areas that you're interested in is a really good thing, even though it may not be on the test. To really put yourself into that and to learn about some topic that you are very interested in is a great thing. I think those are the kinds of skills that are very useful for life, much more important than getting into college. So, I won't tell you not to study, but I think everything should be done kind of in good proportion, and probably focusing on the things that you like, and passionately following those things will give you a better return. So I strongly encourage you to pursue your passions.
Thank you. So I'm going to change the topic here a little bit. You said something about starting from zero, and you said that your job includes like reforming. So do you think creativity is always associated with risks?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a 100% kind of guy, so the risks for me, I just jump off the edge of the cliff and figure it out on the way down. Literally, sometimes. Yeah. And when we re-engineered Patagonia as a company, Patagonia was so fixed as a company, and it was the social consciousness inside of the people working inside the company were old hippies or surfers or mountain climbers, right? And they weren't there to sell clothes. They weren't, because making money and selling clothes was anti-ecological, so we don't do that. But this is a clothes company. We don't sell clothes. We don't want to make money, right? So there were two ways to do this. One would have taken 50 years. Right? The other way is, let's jump over the cliff, guys, and figure it out on the way down. And figure it out together on the way down. So Patagonia, Japan went from 10 million US dollars a year to 100 million US dollars a year in a year and a half because we jumped off the cliff and we figured it out on the way down. Of course you've got fear. Fear is one, fear is, those limitations, and who knows how to deal with limitations that you can't see. And that's creativity. You can't see where you're going to go. You can't see where your painting is going to go. You can't see where your next song is going to end. You don't know how this book is going to end when you start writing it. You don't know whether this company is going to go crash or whether it's going to grow up into a $300 million company like Patagonia Japan. And if we hadn't jumped off the cliff altogether, and of course people were screaming, 30% of the people quit the company, great. That meant I could hire another 30% of really good people.
John just said, if we hadn't jumped off the cliff, and he could have continued that sentence, we would have fallen off the cliff. Do you understand the difference? Jumping is active. Yeah? Falling off the cliff is passive. Being creative means you're active. And I think that's really, really important. And I think you started, as Jeff just said, you're trying to see a pattern here. There's a huge diversity of people, but there's a pattern. And I think it's that people who have passion, as he said, who like what they do, and they're active about it, because they can't help it. They can't do anything else.
So Ritsumeikan mentioned a fear. Do you get a fear as well that maybe your work is not going to be successful, or maybe you're not as creative as other architects?
I talked yesterday, 5 points that I gave you. One of them was uncertainty, and that's fear. Yeah? But it's a positive fear, because if you're certain of things, you can also, it's the same as stagnation. And stagnation is, again, another pole of creativity. Because you become complacent and so on and so on. So yes, I'm uncertain every day. And the more I know, the more uncertain I become.
Mr. Kaufman, think about reforming. Is that a risk?
Well, I don't really think about risks too much. Whatever I do, it's outcome towards outcome. So, what changing, yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable. I don't think it's, I don't think this is a risk. Basically, trying something new make you nervous and make you uncomfortable, but that's it, and you try something new and it works, it doesn't work, but you can always learn something new, so my idea is always kind of keep living the moment, so that's my idea, and also I don't really, put the black and white in this case, I don't think, that's success, so that is failure, I don't really consider that, even thing doesn't, my thing doesn't make a good number, but I can just think about what I can do, so that's it, just do whatever I want to do, or what thing, it's best at each moment, that's what I do, so I don't really consider that a risk or anything, just, that action is needed right now, something like that, so I'm just doing my action. So, like you say, it's not passive, just not active,
Thank you. So, sometimes I take art, and sometimes in class I struggle to come up with inspirations. So, for example, Janice, where do you come up with inspirations for your songwriting?
Usually I write a song because there's something to write about. So my inspiration would be living through life and having byproducts of that. When I'm really out of an idea, I just, I had a writer's block for about a year actually, and it wasn't until recently that I could push through. I realized and remembered that it takes hours to have a session where I can sit down and come up with maybe even just one line. And once you come up with that one line, then you build a momentum and you can keep going. And I really think it's about practice and hard work. You can come up with inspiration that way. It doesn't always have to be, you know, you go on Tumblr and you look through some magical pictures on the internet. It doesn't have to be inspiration in the traditional sense. Hard work can create inspiration.
Thank you. Mr. Cha, I'm sure you've met many ambitious, creative people in your work. Do you think that human beings can ever run out of creative ideas?
They can, I guess, but that'd be a disaster. I think fortunately there are a lot of crazy people who are willing to take risks and be active and doing new things. And fortunately those people are around and continue to do crazy things that improve everyone's life.
Thank you. So, often, stereotypically, creativity is regarded as less important compared to logics or problem solving. So, Mr. Moore, what is your opinion on that? Do you think it's equally important, or is one more important than other?
I think they're both the same thing. Creativity solves problems. Always, always. Whether it's a new song or it's creating a new technology company startup that answers some social issue. He's probably one of the most creative people here, actually, I think. He doesn't look like it. He wears bad ties. But what he does every day, amazing, amazing. I think solving problems is what creativity is all about. And it's the curiosity that Florian was talking about. It's that curiosity, it's like, you know, and you can't stop doing it. You have to do that. You know, it's that you have to know why. And is that the best way? Or is there another way? Or why didn't they do it? Why didn't they do it like this?
Are you thirsty?
I hate bottled water. You will see there's no bottled water on the table. Alright? Bottled water is 100 times more expensive than a cup of water. Alright? Please stop putting bottled water in conferences. This is...
We'll be back after the break.
Find another way to solve the problem. Be creative. Oh, please.
How you can logic if you're not very creative. I think this is an inherent part of it. Solving problems, you know, it's the same thing when you're painting, when you're designing, when you're being a scientist, you're being a teacher. You're looking for solutions. And if you do something efficient, you need to connect the dots in a different way that has done before. And therefore, if you say that you make a distinction between reasoning and logic and creativity, it's a logic by itself. Logic, it's just to understand what works and what doesn't work, and to see what's valid and what's not valid. And to evaluate that is through experience and and the creativity and what you say to create that something we'll talk about it later is just to see it from a different point of view. It's all part. You can put it separate.
I think the question is flawed in terms of, you know, sciences versus creativity. It's not. There's not two different. It's, you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. Because when we say sciences versus the creative fields or whatever, you are thinking in a very, very confined way that you think the creative subjects are arts and photography and what have you. BS, you know? That's not what this is about. Scientists, and those scientists who succeed, they are some of the most creative people. Yeah. Okay? So that's I think is the fundamental flaw of that thinking. We need to get rid of that. Yesterday I talked about this collaboration, cross-discipline thinking. Yeah. And creativity is more, it's like a glue that binds them all. If you lead any field that you are, if you want to go to excel in that field, you won't be excelling without being creative.
Goethe.
Have a read, have a Google of Goethe. German.
Goethe, yeah.
Nobody's perfect. Goethe's theory of color, right? Totally different from Newton's theory of color, shining glass reflected through a prism. Goethe, theory of color. Get your head around that and you realize this guy was a scientist, an artist, and a poet, and one of the most amazing people who ever lived on this planet. It's exactly the same. There's no distinction between science and art for Goethe. It's all the same thing.
Okay, so thank you. I'm going to ask all of you one final question before I move on to Q&A. So inventive or art-related careers are often thought of as careers that don't make much money, but for students who want to pursue like invention and creation, do you have any advices or anything to say to me?
Do we look like we make a lot of money? What I'm trying to say is, if you're after the money, that's basically mistake number one. Yeah? Don't pursue money, because what you get is you may get some kind of so-called wealth, but it's a very, very limited material wealth. That's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to get you frustrated. Do what you feel the passion for. Pursue what you excel in. Override your teacher's advice if they tell you not to pursue history. If history is really what makes your heart beat faster. I think that's what I would say. You know? Don't be afraid about an artist being poor and all these stereotypes. A lawyer being rich, some are. Most are. But don't think about money.
I think it's the same words, but when I was a kid, I wanted to be a painter. Then when is the time to decide what career I'm going to take, I told it to my family. I said, "You're crazy. You're not Picasso, you're a big starvation." And I am 3 generations of engineers on the family. I said, at least do architecture. And, okay, I couldn't. I go there. I spent like 5 years on that school. Something that I don't regret, but definitely it's something that didn't work because the first house I bought just fall down. This is not a joke. And they said, okay, then go and do whatever you want. But the fact that was useful for me when I got architecture because it learning other skills that bring me back to design, back to the arts. But return to the question, if you are going to choose something you are not decided yet, see really what you really like. For example, a simple test. If you are rich well enough, you don't need to work anymore for money. What kind of careers we would do for free, just for fun? Probably you are going to end with like full hand of stuff. Then try to refine it. Suppose that I don't get any money, but I need to pay for this work. You are starting to think that you're more see something, because basically that's what's going to happen. You one way or another, for to start to be successful in what you're going to do, you are going to pay somehow. If it's not money, it's in time, perspiration, and time. But you really need to choose what you want to do. If you are good, if you really like what you're going to do, naturally you are going to be good. And then naturally you are going to make a breakthrough. And then naturally you are going to be the best in the world. No matter that your invention had been invented before, it's always a way to show the same thing in a different point of view, and that a lot of people that didn't learn what you to show again and again. And just, I know it's a cliche, but it's true. Just perseverance, hard work, you get what you want. Basically, it's that.
Thank you.
Yeah, why are we here? That's really what that question is, I think. And I don't think human beings have answered that question yet. We play at making atom bombs and nuclear bombs and nuclear power stations that we can't control. We play with nature to change the DNA of food so it's bad for us and it's bad for the planet. We play at stealing the job of nature, we make food, we do all kinds of things that we steal work from somebody else, but we still haven't found what is the real job, what's the real work of a human being. And if each of us answers that for ourselves and follows our passion, then we'll change the world and we'll make a much better world for the next generation, for your kids. And money, it's only been around for a short time. And it's already failed. The banking system collapsed 5 years ago. But nobody wants to believe it. In the next few years, we'll probably see a new system developing, I'm sure, based on something real, more real like a mountain. You know, mountains are real. Mountains have been here for millions of years. They're not going away. So I think you have to really answer that question yourself. You know, why are we here? And we were talking the other day in the urban planning group about cleaning ourselves. You could do beach cleanup for the rest of your life, and somebody's going to come along and make it, throw trash on it again. And that person's consciousness doesn't change, and your consciousness doesn't change. But if people clean themselves out inside and clean their consciousness, then the beaches get clean, and the mountains get clean, and the world changes. So maybe somewhere there is the real work of human beings. And if we could stop interfering with the rest of nature and the rest of the world and just get back to our own job, I think the world would go down a better path. And you really don't need money.
I keep starting my sentences with anyway. I think I might be able to relate to you guys out there when I say that I still don't know what I want to study in university. I'm still very confused about exactly what it is I want to declare as my degree, because I look at you guys and you're very inspirational, and it's something I want to be able to do with my life, actually spend my time doing something I love and enjoy and make money at the same time. And that's what's scary. That's, you know, when I was in my bed the other day before I got to Japan, I was thinking, I'm going to be in Japan tomorrow, but I couldn't imagine the setting. I didn't know it would be in this room, for example. I couldn't see what was going to be there. And it's the same thing with what I see myself doing after university. I can't imagine the setting, even though I know what kind of tone I want in it. And I think those are important questions we should ask as well, you know. How can we find something we love and also make money at the same time? Because that's not easy. And to some extent, you still are limited with money. You still need to pay your high rents. You still need to eat. You need to send some money back home to your parents that raised you. You know, that's something that still bothers me. So I would love to hear some more about how you guys struggled through that, how you went off within a year or how much longer not with work. You know, how did you get by? How did you still have the strength to go by and pursue that with maybe rent not being able to be paid next month?
I'm still struggling. I'm serious. I'm still struggling, you know. And yeah, I depend on somebody else's money. You know, I build something with somebody else's money, right? And if these people don't show up, and if they don't want to build, and architecture is always such a collaboration in terms of, if you don't have a person with a vision to begin with, you know, you can have your designs, but they don't get realized, right? So I'm still very much struggling to, you know, pay my office month by month. my tank is always on empty, right? And it's always here, it's never there, right? So, but still, didn't go out there for the big money for that reason. If somebody gives me a mountain, that's good. You can live there, but if somebody gives me a lot of money in the end, great, to do something with it, or to feel, to not have to worry about that part of life. But I think it's essentially, if we all had enough food, okay, if we all had enough clothes, if we all were warm enough or cold enough during the summer, would money be that important? Do you think so? Fundamentally?
You need enough to get by.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If you have enough food, if you have enough to eat, if you have enough to live, you don't have to be cold. If you're sick, you have enough money to pay your bills. Do you think we would get enough money to get by, and even be able to afford that your children get by, and your parents?
I really think Hollywood and TV has a lot to answer for. It's built up so much expectations about life, and expectations about money, and expectations about this big dream about love. There's somebody in this world who loves just me, and they're out there, and I find this is all Hollywood. It's a movie. It's not life. Life is, if you want to run a business, you will be busy 24 hours a day. You will have no time. You will very rarely have money. You will very rarely see your families. That's life. That's not Hollywood. Hollywood is a totally different thing. And if you want to try and live in Hollywood, go for it. But you're not going to be happy. And I think we have to come back to reality. And reality is, how much do you dream? How much is enough? How much food do you need every day? How much money do you need every day? How much love do you need every day? How much sleep do you need every day? How much is enough?
My main business is to start companies. So I spend most of my time thinking about how to find a problem that's worth solving and how to solve it. And I look at money as being something to receive in order for me to continue doing what I'm doing. I don't try to make money for the sake of making money. I try to make money so that I can continue doing what I'm doing already. And I'm always out there starting new companies, and I'm always failing all the time, and sometimes every once in a while I'll get lucky and I'll succeed. But what I would recommend for all of you, though, is to pick big problems to solve. Aim very high, because the amount of work that it takes to solve a big problem versus a little problem is pretty much the same. The risks are about the same. The rewards are very different. So I would really encourage all of you to aim extremely high. That way, even if you only succeed in getting halfway there, it's still a huge achievement. And I think that's very true, especially here in Japan, where people set their expectations, their sights quite modestly. I think oftentimes because they're afraid of failure. I'm a repeat failure. I fail all the time, every day. I'm pretty comfortable with it these days. But I really think if you aim high, then even if you totally screw up, you still might achieve something. And people will be better off because of that. In terms of money, really it's, I don't mean to be cavalier about it, but having a lot of money just comes with another set of problems. So I think having enough money so that you can continue doing what you really love is probably the ideal goal.
Thank you.
I hope it didn't come off in that I said money, wanting to make a lot of money would be a goal in life, but I really mean just getting by. Right now I have a job where I make 10,000 a month Hong Kong dollars. And there are people with degrees that have the same jobs as me. And I really wonder how they pay rent, because rent is at least 8,000 in Hong Kong. And the thing about stopping, I hear all these advice, I hear it all, I just can't picture it myself. carry it out, because I can't imagine the success I would come up with. And maybe that's got something to do with my self-esteem, but I can imagine the worst possible outcome, and that is that I'm really out of money and I'm living in my friend's place. And how long can you do that for? To pursue what you want, and that's what's scary. I think that's why so many people still go to university for the safe degrees. You know, I'm going to university because I'm not just gonna not go and play music and pursue it because I'm scared.
I think you're now touching on the core of true creativity, right? You do not support you, life supports you. And when you understand that, and when you allow life to support you, your fears really do turn into a different kind of energy, and a creative energy, because you're working for life. Life supports life. Life will not support death. Fear and worry are all about death. Confidence and curiosity and creativity are all about life. And life supports life. Life will not let you down, and will not let you die, and will not let you starve. I see it all the time in my crazy, stupid life. When there's no money in the bank account, and I'm wondering how I'm going to feed my 8-year-old daughter next week, and pay the rent, and get to Tokyo to go to some seminar or whatever, and there's no money in the bank, and suddenly someone comes up and goes, hey, it's in that, it's beyond trust, it's knowing why we're here, and who we're working for, and what we're working for. And we're not working for money. Really. And that, when you're in there, then you're touching on the touchstone of creativity.
So, Kamakan, do you have anything to add?
Well, after hearing those motivative speech, I kind of hard to say, but you know, before I take over my farming business, I've done so many different things. Actually, even when I was in college, I just don't want to do something, you know. But when I was young, actually, just pursuing for money. Actually, you know, try to make money in a certain way, just focus on money, right? But that's the case, you know, any business doesn't work out because, you know, people know that what I'm doing for, you know. But once you find out what you like and you pursue that, you are happy and you're motivated. You're radiating those motivation, happiness around people. So you can make people happy, and then, you know, once you make people happy, as a second product, you get wealth. So that's the idea. So, you know, don't worry about, you know, what you want to do in your future. You know, if you choose your career for the money, you won't be happy. And when you're not happy, nobody becomes happy around you. And then that's the case, you're done. You know, your business doesn't go anywhere. So just pursue what you like. You know, just, you know, what makes you happy. Then just, you know, that's make other people happy. That's, you know, that's a success, I think.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure you also have unique stories and inspirational things to say, but we're going to move on to
about creativity. Okay, so Mr. Mo mentioned about going down the cliff with everyone, and Mr. Bush described that as uncertainty, it's a fear. And Janice was really mentioning about fear, it's scared. And my question is, do you take that fear as a stress, or would you rather take it as something to accelerate or expand your creativity? If so, how do you do it? Thank you.
First of all, yeah, I think fear is such a loaded word, and I don't want to use fear because it's not fear, it's uncertainty. Okay, which answers your question probably. That is, I wouldn't say the truth if I didn't say it wasn't stress. It probably is stress, you know. I have to support a few of my office, which are quite a few, and we spend a lot of money to support those people. Yes, but it's about getting right again. So no, yes and no, for the stress question, and the fear is the wrong word.
you have to get to a place where if you don't feel fear, then what you're doing is boring. What you're doing is normal, and what you're doing is coasting. Fear is a signal that goes, ooh, I don't know about this. Uncertainty, and it's a chance to learn. It's a chance to go beyond where I am at this point in time. And so if there's no fear, it's a problem. It's not a bad thing. It's a signal that you can go, whoa, wow, what shall I do? I have to make a decision. Do I go or stop, or what do I do? So it's changing the way you think about that loaded word.
Yeah. So fear or not fear, let's forget about this word. It's exactly that. And it just in the architecture design theme group today, one of my slides said, it's a quote from Mario Andretti, who used to be one of the top Formula One drivers way back. And he said, if everything's under control, you're not going fast enough.
That's perfect. Absolutely, absolutely. You couldn't put it any better, really. I know this thing about fear is thrown away. We're told from kids, you know, Abalai. I climb mountains, right? And everybody goes, well, did you get frightened up there? Why? I'm all by myself, and all I have to think about is getting this hand. There's no fear there. When I get to the top, I feel really clean. And I got to the top of the mountain. My kids, I had two girls, one's 13, one's 8. 13-year-old lives in Tokyo by herself. She goes to Tokyo Ballet. And the 8-year-old lives with me. And both of them climb mountains. We don't use ropes. They've never used a rope, and I've never said, Abalai. They look at the rock and they go, and they know inside, they know what their body can do, they know what their body can do, and they know if they can take that step or not.
I'm again going to use the F word, the fear word, because I just said don't use fear, and we're still using fear. And yes, whether it's fear or not, there's an instinct in all of us that's fear, and that's very important. That's protecting us. It's an instinct. That's that stone. Okay, and that's a positive fear. That's going to save your life, or that's going to make you go forward. But if it's a fear that is, hindering you, it's creating inhibition in you to not do things, I think it's the wrong fear.
Creating fear by itself, like fear creates your creativity expand.
Well, I think before you don't go with the fear. What you do is you laugh. If you look around at these people here, everybody's joking and everybody's laughing. That's why it's a skill that you learn to cope with that uncertainty. Yeah, can I do this rock or not? Hey, Florian's got you make a joke, and it gives you time to judge and to make a decision and to make the right decision and to make the right approach to that piece of rock. And so that joking and that humor is the most valuable skill I think a creative person or any person can actually learn. Forget maths. I used to get 3% in math in school. I was known in my school for being in the A grade and I would only get 3% in math, right? Shit! Learn to tell jokes, learn to be funny, and learn to approach life and to calm people down with humor or put people at ease with humor and approach situations with humor, with a playfulness. And that will use the energy of uncertainty to a positive energy.
Social creativity.
So sometimes if I'm worried about whether to do something or not to do it. I put it into perspective by saying, you know, if I don't do it, what's the risk that I face? And one of the big risks that I would face if I don't do it is always wondering, gee, I wonder what would have happened if I had done it. And that's a big bother. I don't like to worry about that. At least if I try it and it blows up, hey, I know. Do that, it blows up. But now I know. Versus saying, gee, I wonder what would have happened if I had done that. And living with that kind of uncertainty is a lot worse for me. So I'll go and do something stupid and learn that that wasn't the right thing to do.
I think that.
And that really comes clear with girls. Yeah, should I ask her on a date or not? You know, yeah. You don't, and the next day, shit. Right? Do it. If she goes, yeah, okay. There's 100 more others out there.
That was your question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Are there any more questions?
Hi. This question is in regards to Mr. Moore's statement that life supports you. I'm just picturing, I suppose, something like a gambler or something that has the choice whether or not to make a bigger investment or a smaller investment. And I'm thinking that fears exist for a reason. And there's a tangible fear, such as if you take this risk and you fail, there will be consequences. How can we continue using that idea that life will work out if it doesn't? So I guess to summarize my question, what if life doesn't support you? Thanks.
I think you missed the point. The point was that if you understand about life and how life works, and if you understand you and how you should work together with life, then life will support you. If you don't understand you, and if you don't understand how life works in cycles, it's luck. And it might support you and it might not. So the real job and the real study of a human being is to learn how those cycles of life and how to live within those cycles of life. A mountain and a forest lives inside cycles of life. All women up in the countryside live inside those natural cycles. They live together with nature, and life supports them. That's why they live healthily into their old age. Right? So the point is, if you're still not knowing, or you're looking for that big gamble and you don't know whether it'll work out or not, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is before you do that, is who are you and what are those cycles and flows of life, and getting to know that first.
John, I think my brother and I share the same concerns because my father is he's really into starting his own thing, and it's ended up with huge mortgages and a lot of debt. And I think that's the concern, you know. What about the people living in partitioned apartments, you know? What about people in Hong Kong who live in cage homes? Because that fear of losing everything, and I think money is a huge issue, is very real to us, I think, for my age.
Yeah, it's real for everybody because we all have put ourselves into that same jail.
When you talk about life supports life, could you explain that in in terms that is more relatable? Because it's very big idea, it's very abstract.
No, it's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing.
Could you give an everyday example?
Yeah, you're late for work, and if you are living for the benefit of this world and for the benefit of others, truly, without thinking about it, without thinking you're a wonderful person, okay? You're late for work and you just missed the train, and suddenly you bump into a friend who's driving their car to exactly the same destination as you need to get to.
Okay, John's a hippie, so he's got these kind of answers. Let me try my version. So when I build a company, I'm trying to find a problem to solve for somebody who would give me money if I solve that problem for them. And if I am truly solving the problem, and if they truly value that problem being solved, they'll pay me. And somehow I'll be able to pay the bills, pay the employees, and continue to do this. If I'm not solving a problem for them, or they don't value what I'm doing, they're not going to pay me, and I won't be able to continue doing it. So it's very simple. I will go out of business, and I've had several businesses fail because I was not addressing a problem that they needed solved. And then I've had a few businesses succeed because I was able to provide a service for somebody who had a problem and I really solved it. They paid me for it. So I guess from my viewpoint is if I'm helping somebody solve a problem and it really is solving their problem, then I will make money. And somehow I'll be able to continue doing it. So that's the non-hippie answer.
Sounds like it.
Hello again. Mr. Moore, just to continue your line of thought, if I was to continue using your metaphor and how life ebbs and flows like that of the life of a forest or a mountain or whatever, what if your forest burns down? Are you to continue just living with the burning forest around? It's crashing down beside you?
That's life.
But
What you're asking for is to change the whole of life to fit in with what you want.
I'm saying that people should deal with lives not attributing themselves into some kind of higher power that will support you. I'm saying that life should be dealt with by people.
That's exactly what we're saying. Yes. God or a higher power cannot do through you, it cannot do for you, it has to do through you. So you have to work together with the universe to do things, whether it's making your business, whether it's washing your face, whether it's cleaning up a burned down forest, wherever it is. You have to do it day by day, step by step. Nothing can be done for you. And I suspect the back of your questions is you want stuff done for you.
I am trying to argue against that point. I think that's what you're implying with that statement, life supports life. I'm saying that life doesn't support life, and we need to support ourselves. I'm not sure how I was managed to be misinterpreted.
No, not misinterpreted, but the base of where you're coming from. If you're supporting yourself, right, then you're doing what Florian was saying, you're active inside the universe, and you're acting with the universe. So you're creating a path forward, right? If you're not doing that, it can't work together with you. So we're saying the same thing.
All right, thank you.
I have a question, I suppose, for the audience to answer, but you're saying that life is creative and
I can't see you. Where are you?
So you're saying that life is creative and life is in cycles and that sort of a thing, and life supports life and all that, but then what's the actual purpose of life? Why are we here on Earth? Right, you know.
Meaning of life, ask Monty Python, it's not me. Exactly, that was the point, that's what I said. The human beings and we, included everyone in this room, has not yet answered that question. That should be the first job that we do, and the first point of study in college or university is to seek that answer and find that answer for ourselves, each individually as well as a collective unit for the world. Otherwise, we don't have much time left in this world. Because not knowing why we're here and yet acting and acting and acting as though we do, we've destroyed so many of the systems in this world. The life support systems that have run down so low that we don't have much time. And we really do need to figure out why we're here and what we're doing and how to do it. Each individual. And asking somebody else to figure it out for you is not the answer.
Yeah, I'm not sort of asking you. I want to know what your opinion is, because, I mean, if we don't have a purpose, what's the point of living? Like, you know, what do you think? I'm asking you personally to explain to us what you think your purpose on life is. Why are we on Earth? What's your role in society? And yeah, what do you think?
Yeah. I started, I've always done the same thing. I've always looked at society and myself and what the current social consciousness, where it's failing, where it doesn't work for the planet at the moment. Which is why I started the foundation about the seeds. Seeds of life, it's called, not just seeds, it's seeds of life. So, what do we need to keep for the next 50 years, and what do we need to throw away? What do we need to clean out of ourselves, and what level of consciousness do we need to live from and act from as an individual as well as an organization that will benefit ourselves and benefit the planet? He's not listening, he's talking to somebody else. So for me, my role in this universe is to raise people's consciousness as well as my own about the issues that we need to look at for the next 5 years. Otherwise it's going to be too late. And if we can raise the consciousness about food by 1% a year for the next 5 years, then I've done a pretty good job.
Are there any more questions?
Thinking back on what Adrian said about how we support ourselves, I want to ask you that wouldn't it make it harder for us to trust life then? Because if we think that we're there for ourselves, because then the future becomes scary, and you will think that if you're doing it for yourself, there's no one out there to do anything for you. It becomes more scary then, and you won't trust life for them.
Yeah, that wasn't the meaning that we were talking about, just doing it for ourselves. We're talking about you have to take action in your life, right? That's what was meant by acting for yourself. Not only thinking just about you. If you're only thinking about you, then you're going down that same path that he's talking about, right? But acting actively within your life, that will affect everybody around you if you're active in your own life and you're actively creating solutions to the problems that you see right in front of you every day. And that's not acting for you.
We have John F. Moore here. Do not ask what the world can do for you, ask what you can do for the world.
Hello. I wanted to ask to anybody, at what point do you choose to, I don't want to say succumb, let's say you're faced with a risk or a challenge. There's always uncertainty, and when do you choose to push through and battle?
I don't really choose actually, I just do it, and if it doesn't work. I mean, well, I make kind of really different choice, but since now I'm a family right now, then I need to kind of consider with my family too, but job-wise I don't really I kind of say yes to everything. Is it an opportunity, I take it. And maybe it's really hard to do. Like for instance, less than a month. I mean, this morning I got an email and then group requesting me to do some open speak to big international convention. Usually those things, I need to have 2 months preparation, but it's less than a month. But well, it's a really great opportunity. I just take a risk, maybe I failed, it's fine, there's something, maybe like 300 people laughing at me, that there's only temporal thing. You achieve only temporal. Failure is only temporal thing. What you can learn from there is the most important part. And the next step. So just keep thinking, whatever serve in front of you. So that's my idea.
I think that's what Mr. Char said, which is it something that you're going to regret afterwards that you haven't done? There's a good quotation, we keep bringing them, but it's better to burn out than to fade out. And I really believe that if it's important to you, if you can work 3 jobs at the same time and pursue it, then go for it.
So is that to say that it's worth taking any risk in front of you if you feel that it's worth it?
Now that's crazy. But if you're very quiet inside, and you listen to your inside and listen to your heart, you'll know whether that is meant for you or not. That's meant for you to do, or it's meant for you to leave for somebody else to do. You'll know. And you have to be honest with yourself. And that takes bravery, to be honest with yourself every day, every second, every moment. And to answer that challenge that life puts in front of you bravely and simply. You have to be really quiet to know that inside.
Thank you.
Hi. I think when it comes to this topic, we kind of have to start cutting out the religion, the philosophy, and the metaphors, and actually start thinking about reality. I can totally relate to you, Janice. It's okay for you adults to sit there who have all got jobs, who have all got money, whether you have access to it or not. I know John will live in the mountain, but for me, what you're saying is you don't live in reality. We're the ones who are working our arses off every single day to get the grades, so we can get the good jobs, so we can get to live the lifestyle that we all want. And this is the 21st century. I doubt there is a person in this room who doesn't want to have a big house and a nice car and be able to treat their families who have raised them since they was a kid and pay a little bit back. And so my thing is, coming back to creativity, what reality does creativity have? Because I know that when my teacher is marking my history essays, it's all very well putting all that passion and creativity to something you feel so strongly about. But if it doesn't hit the mark scheme, you're not going to get the grades. So therefore, what I'm saying is, creativity isn't cold, harsh reality.
Let me take a stab at that one. I'm pretty passionate about this issue. I think grades are overrated. I think your view that you just mentioned here of reality is commonly spouted, especially by parents. Get good grades, get into a good university, get a good job, live happily thereafter. That's bullshit. Okay. I think a lot of times what's more important is you face adversity, you try something, you screw up, you learn from it, you get back up, you go on. I think that's a heck of a lot more important than getting a good mark on a history exam. That's a lot more important. It will stay with you. It will define who you are in the long term. And I'm not just saying that because I'm old now. I really think, I have no idea what grades I got back in college or high school. I don't remember. It didn't really matter. I can tell you some of the big screw-ups I did, and I think I learned from a lot of those things. You don't want to repeat them, but the things that you can learn from it and the values that you gain from screwing up and getting back up and trying again are very important. And I think they're much more important than the grades you get in school.
But what I'm saying is, if you don't get good grades now, you don't get a job. You don't get the job that you want. In an ideal world, we would all have a job that we love, that we're earning, 30 grand a year, you can have a nice car. But that's not reality. So unfortunately, people do have to do the things that make them unhappy. I'm going to take my parents, for example. Both of them hate their jobs. But without those crappy jobs that they have, we wouldn't have food on the table, we wouldn't have heating when it's cold. And everyone, raise your hand if you think grades are important, right now. And at the end of the day, this is about students, and it says 21st century careers. And 21st century careers, enforces grades because, if you're competing against someone who could be mega passionate about everything they do and have a D grade, I don't know, in English, but have someone who has an A grade who isn't so passionate and doesn't have the personality, the person with the A grade is going to get the job over the person who has the D grade at the end of the day.
I think you're talking about, though, is getting a job, working for somebody else, and working at a big company. If you are only going to follow that paradigm, if that is the only paradigm in the world, okay, I agree. But I think there are lots of other paradigms out there. I, for one, chose not to take that. I did that in the beginning, but I later chose to go out and start my own company. And I've continued to choose that. And I think that's an alternative. It's not for everybody, for sure, but it's an alternative. And so what you're describing is only one way. There are other ways. If your parents don't like their job, they can change. They can go do something else. It might pay more, it might pay less, but they won't know unless they try it.
I think my friend would like to say something.
Just a point to make. We all need jobs that are there. How's your big business going to run without the employees and without the small people that matter?
I think what she's trying to say is that everyone works for someone.
It's quite clear what she wants to say. What I want to tell you, I had done good grades in school, okay? And look where I ended up. Yeah? I don't have a big car, I don't have a big house, I don't have a TV, okay? I don't make a lot of money, but I like what I'm doing. And maybe one day I'll make a lot of money. I doubt that I'll buy a big car, unless I live in the country and need one, okay? Don't put everyone under the same umbrella. That's number one you need to think about. And as Jeff said, a lot of paradigms out there, and the world is so nice because there's diversity. And the world is nice because there's somebody thinking like you, and like your neighbor, and like your neighbor, like this guy, and this guy, and this guy. Okay? So do grades really matter? Of course they matter for you now. And that's fair, that's okay. Alright? And don't think that we are all hippies, some of us are.
I don't.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle. And one thing that I sense and that sort of really enrages me in a way, or makes me uneasy now, is that I think that you are looking at the news every day, of course, and the world economic situation and how sour it is. And I think, I wasn't the generation of for example, the Japanese bubble. I'm too young for that, but I think friends of mine in Spain, 50% of them are unemployed in a young age, etc. So I sense that they're really scared about that. But what we're here today to try to tell you is relax, and that we don't mean it arrogantly. Don't relax in that sense, everything's going to be fine. No, relax in that sense that grades are all that matter, but you have to go, if you want to pursue that path, as Jeff said, if working in a company, and that's your aim, then you're not going to possibly to get a good grade is the lesser evil of the two. I think if you really want to struggle, you end up doing something like this. But the reward is maybe higher. It depends on you, and that's it.
I think a lot of us, my age, we're scared and we can't really completely understand your stories and how you got there, because we haven't really done that yet. It's just like how before I had seen snow, I knew what it was like and I could see it on TV, but I had never felt it or been in it. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's why we're so insecure and why we're feeling so scared about it. And
fair enough, but don't think we were never at that point. Please don't. We are only one generation away from you.
You're not that old, yeah.
Half a generation. Well, yeah, that's not, could be one generation. It's not in my case, but we are very, we went through the same things. You know, when I was your age, I was reading Camus too much. Yeah, Albert Camus. And then you start to think about, why are we here? Oh God, and it's natural.
I mean, like, I kind of grown up the same way as, you kind of worry. I mean, like, grade, everything, people in their 30s, I'm 35, not yet, but this year. But that's, in Japan's case, is what I call, Jukensen, so the entrance exam war, everybody competing each other, don't care about anything about, having fun in the school. I mean, I grown up in that period as well. I mean, I was worried about my grade, and my parents always, talking about my grade, not anything. I mean, not other things. But I just thought, like, is it just an option for me? I mean, like, you need to think that there's another option. You want to work for the bank, yeah, you need to do great. You want to work for a corporation, you want to be just, one-way employee, yes, that's great, But my case, well, I didn't have a good grade in college, so I didn't have any job, maybe. So I need to create it by myself and reinvent, what we have. So it's not like grade is everything, But you need to work hard in a certain point. Maybe you're working hard right now, then maybe you get a good grade, and you can get into a good company. Maybe you get a nice salary for that. But in a way, we creative person. I don't know if I'm creative or not, but it's not like like living like hippies. I mean, we working hard every moment, so that's brought us where we are right now. So you need to think that, and then getting a good grade and working for a company and getting the company, people think that that's the end of life. It's not. Your life continues until you die. So.
Can we have maybe like one last question?
Hi. Okay, so I want to ask all of you. So I see that most of you are really creative people, and you all seem to have negative aspects on the system that uses money. Now, in the past, there has been systems that tries to use like less money, like communism and socialism. Why do you think that those systems failed? Although I think that those communism and socialist ideas were quite creative to some extent.
All right. To answer this question, communism and socialism ignore the human emotion. That's the reason why they fail. Because the human have desire. Want to get better life, those kind of thing. They ignore the emotion, desire. That's why they fail. Just going for the logic doesn't work out. But that's that's just an answer. I don't know it's related to this program, but yeah.
So then, why do you have negative aspects on the system that uses money? Like you're like telling us that us not to chase money, but apparently money system is the best that works for us.
Do you think that the money system, because there's a money system, that means you have to chase the money? Is that what you're trying to say? Are you saying that because we have what you call a money system, the aim for everybody should be to get as much of that as possible? And you need to think what you think when you say money system, what that implies.
I think that you answered my question.
Can I have one more question, please?
Go ahead.
Hello. Hiya. My question is kind of directed to Mr. Moore. Sorry again for being bombarded. I want to kind of give the perspective from somebody who works. I love my job, but in England it's quite a low wage. So if I wanted to buy my own house or bring up children and be able to support them, then I'd definitely struggle. And I'm not talking about the luxuries of a nice big car or a big house or go on holiday every year. I mean just kind of the basics. So if I wanted to do that anytime soon, I'd have to get a new job, even though the job I'm doing now, I absolutely love and it's my dream. I work with special needs children, but it's not very well paid. At what point do you think that people need to take responsibility for themselves and make sure they are earning money? Because if you live in England and you're not working or you're not earning enough to support your children, then you get benefits. So everybody else that you live around pay taxes for you to be able to support your 3, 4, 5, however many children, which I don't think is fair. So at what point do you need to take responsibility for yourself, make sure you're earning enough to support yourself and your family, instead of relying on other people to bail you out? Because I don't think that's fair on anybody else. And you're saying that life supports life, but actually it doesn't. You need to support yourself. So, you know, I love the job I do, but I know it's not going to, you know, look after me for the next 10, 15 years. Do you understand what I'm saying? You look a bit confused, I'm sorry.
I understand what you're saying. I understand you don't understand what I said.
No, I think you've been contradicting yourself quite a lot, which is maybe why I'm a little bit confused.
Let me say it one more time. I live with my 8-year-old daughter. I support her.
Do you have a job?
Yes.
So you earn money?
Very little.
But it's enough to support yourself?
Barely.
Okay, that's what I'm
So
saying.
I grow my own food.
And that's fine.
You're not listening.
Carry on, sorry.
I will carry on. That's why I grow my own food. Because I don't make enough money to pay for her schooling if I don't grow my own food. So you didn't listen to everything I was saying. Your emotions filtered what I was saying. And that's what's happened here today. And it's very interesting. I think everybody in the audience today should really think about that. A lot of the questions that came up back to us were because you did not listen. You listened to your own perceptions, and you didn't listen to the words that people were saying clearly. And if you're going to study, and if you're going to really learn and make a change in the world, you really have to learn to listen to what people are really saying, not to what you think they're saying, or what you want to think they're saying. Two very different things there. So I work very hard every day to turn my life and her life into the life that it should be, so that she learns how to live life actively and creatively. That's why we live together. That's why I don't want her to live with her mother, because her mother would be chasing money.
I'm not talking about chasing money there, I'm just talking about supporting yourself and your family, and it's fine if you've got a job and you've got enough to support your family. What I mean is in a situation where your dream is to, I don't know, write songs or be an artist, if that is not bringing enough money, at what point do you say, actually, I need to take responsibility for myself and get a job that is going to, support me instead of relying on other people to bail you out?
No one said I relied on other people to bail me out.
I know that isn't what I said either. I don't say that you rely. I'm saying that you're encouraging people to be creative, and that's fine. And I respect you all greatly. And working in a school, I know how important it is to encourage people to be creative. It's not really actually about that. It's just about the comment you made. About how far you go with it. How many times do you, like Janice says, stay on your friend's sofa, and you go, talking about going on the train. At what point do you take responsibility for yourself and make sure you get there on time and not rely on somebody there to pick you up and give you a lift? Do you understand?
Yeah, you didn't understand. Again, you didn't understand what I said. You didn't listen to what I said. What I said was, if for an example is, I tried working hard, living my life, actively doing it, but I'm late for the train, for whatever reason. The lady next door wants me to take out the trash, so I'm late for the train, right? But because of the way we live life, because of the consciousness that we're living life from, life lends a hand and somebody is there to help out.
Life doesn't lend a hand. The people next door that have got a job and paying their taxes might lend a hand.
It's fine if you don't.
I think we should agree to disagree.
Yeah, and it's fine. You don't need to listen to me. Like Florian said, there are many ways to think about life and live life. There are many ways to get through life and to learn about life, and that's why we're all here. What I keep saying is everybody should look at themselves and think about why you're here and what is the real job for each individual person in this room for their life and how to benefit themselves and the planet. And that'll be different for every person in the room. And that's the wonder of the universe.
I think I know what you want to say. I'm going to try to help you. And so she's saying that if you are growing your food and you said barely you come by, but if that barely would turn into I don't come by, and it never does. Okay, that's the answer to you. In his case, it never does. But if you wanted to hear, maybe at what point would you choose to drive a taxi and so on? That's what it was.
That was my point.
Yeah, it never does.
I wish it was that easy for everybody then.
We'd like to have, we're running out of time. We'd like to have a comment from Mr. Giovanni on this issue. How do you feel about this?
We're talking a lot about failure and success, how you feel neglected about life is not fair with you or what's going on. In fact, I can tell you what is your case. I can just share my experience, what I had seen in my life, and what I concluded that things that goes in cycles. There's a time that are good, there are times that are not going to good, and the only thing that is going to make you through that is time and the perseverance. And that is going you are going to make peace with yourself at a certain point. But there's not a road to success. Just one thing that I would just put, we're talking about creativity here and how it goes on your careers. I just want you to remember one thing that you have to pay attention, and that's something that you have to have real fear. Remember that when you are going to be at my age, there's not going to be a single work that can be automated that would not be. Everything that could be done by a machine is going to be. And only if you have like a creative path, and I say that you don't need to be a genius to create, but it helps, of course, if you have a talent. But if you don't persevere to insist to work outside of the box, you are going to be on that fear side most of the time. Just try to go out of the flock as much as you can.
Thank you, Mr. Giovanni. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so we'd like to end our panel discussion here. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you again to all our panelists and to Ms. Fujimoto, and thank you all for your attention. The dinner will begin at 5 o'clock, and what? Oh, okay, so, well, there's a correction. So, well, the dinner's going to be in Union Square, which we had our lunch, right? Okay, so, and well, first from Peking U High School, please bring your data into front for the performance. And second of all, can all the performers come to front after Mr. Thomas's announcements? Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys for your attention. You were an attentive panel in the age of the personal digital assistant. Is that what it's called? PDA. So thank you for your attentiveness. I thought this was interesting. We had some interesting questions and some good exchanges. So thank you for taking a risk and saying what you thought. And this is a 21st century careers theme. These gentlemen and myself and the teachers all began our careers, quote unquote, so-called, sometime in the 20th century. So 21st century careers are something that you guys are going to discover in a way that I think maybe nobody really knows. But I hope that you come away with some food for thought and interesting ideas going forward. I'll do a couple of quick announcements and issue a dinner correction.